Okay, since it's 5 o'clock, we'll officially call this Finance Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
One moment, please, while I get the recorder working. Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman,
Present.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker is absent, Brashaw,
Here.
Mysick,
Here.
and Berberay.
Here.
And if you could please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman McClanathan.
I pledge allegiance. Good evening. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Alderperson Brashaw, seconded by Alderperson Berberay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion approved, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 5 was public comments, and Madam Clerk indicated that none have signed in. So we'll go to number 6, which is presentation of the capital improvement budget by City Manager Bukis, Director Richter, and Director Boyer. Who's starting us off?
We're going to start with Director Boyer.
Director Boyer? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you. The 2021 capital improvement budget is broken into 6 main categories. The first is transportation, and that we will discuss that here in the beginning. Then we'll move to the second section, which is buildings. The third section is water infrastructure projects, and the fourth is wastewater infrastructure projects. Then we'll move to stormwater, and the last section will be vehicles and equipment. So moving forward, let's go ahead and get started with the transportation infrastructure. All right. So we're going to begin with the Chicago Streetscape project. This encompasses work from Jackson Street to Douglas. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2021 through 2023. It extends the path of the multi-use path from Douglas Street to Linden Street. It includes 6 blocks of reconstruct and utility replacement. The total cost of the project is $4.15 million and is funded through Opportunity Zone Grant, $1 million through House Bill 64 through State Senator Stewart, and $1.25 million of MFT. Moving forward, we'll discuss the Adams Avenue reconstruct. This incorporates a complete reconstruction of Adams Avenue from Arcade to South Float, and water main replacement to continue to from South Float to Exchange. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2021 through 2023. The estimated project cost currently is $8.7 million. This will be funded through federal highway funds, motor fuel tax, and 2 EPA loans, one for sewer and one for water main. Third down is Empire Street and Court. This encompasses repavement of Empire Street and Empire Court. Work is currently underway and scheduled for completion in 2021. The estimated project cost is $1.36 million, and this is funded through road bond money. Downtown ADA Accessibility Project is our next one. This encompasses 40 new ramps and 4,500 square feet of sidewalk in the downtown area. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2021. The estimated project cost is $490,000. This is primarily funded through a community development block grant of approximately $485,000 with an additional local match. The next project is more of a projection of street maintenance. Essentially what we're suggesting is to spend approximately $175,000 a year on materials for road repavement efforts through the street department. So this encompasses approximately 250,000 square feet per year, or almost 1.8 miles per year. And this would approximately get the entire city repaved within a fairly long period of time, and if we're able to increase that, it would be good. Work is ongoing, and the estimated cost is about $175,000 per year, and this is funded through what's road bond money. The next project is Meadows Dirk Drive and Rosenthal Drive. It encompasses roads resurfacing in the aforementioned streets. The estimated project cost is $1.05 million, and it is a candidate for funding through Rebuild Illinois money. Although as far as Rebuild Illinois money is concerned, it is something we can't count on for the budget, but we anticipate 4 more deposits of approximately $250,000 each. Moving on down, Sylvan Lawn Hillcrest. This involves road work following the tentative or potential Oak Hill collection system expansion. As we discussed several meetings ago, it was originally designed to be chip seal, which is also a question if we're going to move forward with that. But the estimated project cost of that is $200,000, and it is a potential candidate for funding through Rebuild Illinois money. Next project down is the Gladewood Bridge, also known as the Demeter Bridge, also known as Park Court Bridge, or the Yellow Creek Bridge. This project involves raising the bridge and rebuilding it. It is tentatively scheduled for 2026. The estimated project cost is $1.9 million, and this is funded through county Illinois bridge funds, some portion of MFT money from the city, and then there's a water main that needs to be relocated and replaced, and that would come at city's expense. Additionally, in the bridge category, we have Hancock Bridge. This encompasses the rebuilding of the Hancock Bridge and is tentatively scheduled for 2026. The estimated project cost is $3.9 million. It's funded through the Illinois Special Bridge Program and a city portion through MFT or local funds. The next project down is the South Demeter Road repaving project. This encompasses 2 stretches of South Demeter Drive, tentatively scheduled for 2028, but it was identified as a pavement in poor condition by the road conditions survey, and it does depend on what happens with the Gladewood Bridge project. The estimated project cost is $470,000, and funding is to be determined. It somewhat depends on the scope of what's left on what happens with the Gladewood Bridge. Additionally, we have the Homer Street project. This encompasses road work tentatively scheduled for 2029. It's a single stretch from Locust to Prairie, and it's also identified as pavement in poor condition on the road condition survey. The estimated project cost is $360,000, and the funding for this project is currently to be determined. This concludes the transportation category. Are there any questions at this point as we move forward into the buildings category?
Mayor.
Yeah, just to make sure that I understood you correctly, you talked about the Hancock Street Bridge possibly being done 2026, but yet you have $300,000 budgeted in '22.
That's for design. Yeah.
Alderman Borneman.
Thank you. Director, one question of a couple I have is Empire Street. When you say the street itself is going to be redone, are you talking all the way from Pearl City Road to, I guess, the end of Empire?
No, this is from Burchard to Park.
This is something we talked about at another meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then a follow-up.
Go ahead.
You said a couple, the South Demeter project depends on how the Gladewood Bridge project turns out. What did you mean by that?
The elevations involved with the increase in height of the bridge may impact the intersection at the end of South Demeter. So how much grade work will need to be done to have South Demeter meet with the bridge is part of the project.
Can I continue?
Go ahead.
How would that affect its, would that affect the date it gets done, or just the amount that you're estimating?
It affects the interface between the end of South Demeter and where it connects with the bridge. So if we have to raise the grade substantially there, it may impact the cost and what we can accomplish down there for the estimated $400,000 plus. I mean, maybe I'm not answering your question.
No, that makes sense. Then the work that's been done on the portion of South Demeter, so I understand this right, the portion of South Demeter that's been worked on that runs parallel with the river, that's part of the two stretches, that's one of them?
Yes, that's the southern stretch, and that we went ahead and took care of pretty bad pavement situation. It was not a full mill and overlay. It was we spot ground to make the base smooth, and then went over it with 1.5 to 2 inches of hot mix asphalt. So that was there to remediate some of the worst of the potholes and things that were problematic in that area.
And moving forward, that portion of Demeter, along with the other portion, may not be revisited until 2028?
Yes.
Alderman Burberry.
Thank you. Director, you mentioned street maintenance. That's basically paving,
Yes, sir.
repaving.
Yeah.
It's a projection of about 2.8 miles per year, I think you said?
No, 1.8.
1.8?
Yeah. 1.8.
Can't get more for a month.
Yeah, at a 28-foot road, it might be different.
And you said it might take a while to get all this, what's?
Well, I don't want
the way you
to.
put that-
I don't want to throw big numbers out
I know,
here,
but
but
it-
at that rate, it's going to be.
But we hear as older people and community members that
Yeah.
there's a lot of streets that need to be done. We have no concept, at least I don't, as to, well, how many miles are we talking? How many linear miles are we talking about?
I can give you some idea. If we were
That's
to
okay.
dedicate approximately $500,000 in materials, the streets crew could potentially, with the right equipment, do around 800,000 square feet per year, which is something like every road every 22 years. So we're talking about 175,000.
Okay.
We're talking about 250,000 square feet that comes into approximately every 70 years.
Oh,
So redoing every road every
so
70.
I will never see
Yeah.
completely free. Oh.
No, and I think there needs to be some discussion as to the
Thank you.
priority on that.
But it puts it in perspective.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
That's all.
Director, let's talk about that a little bit. The repaver, I think, then comes into your request, or the amount that you had in regards to the 175,000 there for street maintenance probably ties into your request for the paver later on. But talk to us a bit more in regards to what are some of the trade-offs. I mean, if you have that greater ability, manpower, projects done in-house versus contracted out, what are the pros and cons and the realistic amount of work that the Public Works Department could do if you did have an increase in that street maintenance portion?
Well, as far as what I've proposed here, the 175,000 is not much of a change to what we currently have and what we've already used. That includes the smaller paver that we have. If we were to get an expanded materials budget for streets up to, say, $500,000, we would need a larger paver to be able to move that much material and repave that many roads. As I mentioned to Alderman Burberry, approximately $500,000 a year in materials are required to do 800,000 square feet of roads. That roughly equals 22 years. Every road gets redone in 22 years.
What's your proposed, if you're putting in another 325,000 in the street maintenance, where are we taking it from?
I'm not proposing that. I'm only proposing 175,000 because that's what I have available.
Okay. The 500,000 is just theoretical?
Yep.
If you get the Rebuild Illinois funds, will that move up those projects that are dedicated for the Rebuild Illinois funds? So will that move them up faster or no?
The Rebuild Illinois money works through MFT. There's a lot of rules requiring different, ADA accessibility and so forth. So if I was to have additional funds for MFT, that doesn't necessarily mean I can apply them all over the city unless we are going to expand the road repaving projects to include sidewalk and ADA replacement as well. So that kind of balloons the cost of everything we do. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the Rebuild Illinois money will be folded into some of these other projects that are already in place. For instance, we'll get a little bit further down, but some of the Rebuild Illinois money would be useful for the Oak Hill repaving if we get to that place.
Going back to the street maintenance, do you have the manpower to do $500,000 a year if the money was allocated?
No.
Okay.
That would need a minimum 2 more streets crew.
So, okay, more cost
Yep.
into that than
Right.
just the simple, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
if we did it in-house, it would be cheaper than doing it with a contractor as well. So, there's times that we look at depending on the project, we'll either bid it out or do it in-house. With a bigger paver and with additional 2-person crew to help with the paving, we could do more in-house than we're doing now. The paver we have now it's pretty much on its last legs. It's only a 5-foot paver. You got to do numerous passes in order to get 1 lane of asphalt down. So it's by getting a new paver, we're going to be saving a lot of time as well. So we can do more work. And of course, we're always looking for different grants and other sources of revenue so we can do more road work.
Alderperson Borneman.
The Meadows, Dirk, and Rosensteel item here,
Yes.
this might be a dumb question, but what work's being done there?
These are areas they're behind some of the large commercial zones south of town. They've been identified as pavement that's in poor condition, and it was in the previous 5-year capital plan, and this is a carryover from the previous one.
Excuse me. Mr.
Meadows in particular is pretty bad, and also portions of Dark. I think they run behind the
I
JC.
believe there's some not stormwater, but water work that also needs to be done on those roads.
In previous capital plans, I had seen Laurel from the stretch from the school down to Park on here. I do see Laurel Forest Main, but with an undetermined date later on. Where are we at? Was that pushed down the priority, the chain?
As far as the Laurel Forest Main is concerned, we'll get to that in the wastewater portion of the presentation. Did you want to talk about that right now?
Well, we could talk about it then. We're looping back also. I assume that would have some impact. The forest main obviously is down near Park there, but there was also, I believe, some anticipated work from the school down to Park. Previously we had work done when we were doing water main replacement from the school and then west. But in regards to from the school down to Park, is that in regards to road or anything else of that nature, is that not on the short-term list at this point?
Yeah, we have to do a water main replacement from the school down to Park as well.
Okay,
That's one reason why we have all the Hudson Road that we do have.
right.
Sure.
Chair.
Alderperson Bradshaw.
Thank you. Director Boyer, when the budget is passed, will you be able to put this on the city website as far as the timeframes for some of these streets, the proposed timeframes, so that some of our constituents would understand? One of our biggest problems as alderpersons are people come and complain to us that their street isn't done, but the one next to theirs was done.
Yeah.
And we always try to explain to them that it's not a situation where we can always fix exactly what we want to do and pave every road that we want to pave, that it's a funding mechanism that we have to look for, and we have to plan years in advance. It's not always what they want to hear, but I know as much publicity as we can to reach the general public with this information. It's better for all of us in the long run.
Agreed, yes. And yes, we'll be able to put this on the website, and we can also add, if our streets budget is approved, we'll be able to identify and then put that plan up there for the sections of city roads that the streets department will do as well.
Thank you, sir.
Chair.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, Director. As Mayor Miller stated, in reference to the Hancock Bridge, the 300,000 in 2022 is meant for design, correct?
Yes, sir.
What would be the next step after the design?
Well, one of the contingent variables with this particular project is if Illinois grants us the special bridge funding to do the repair. So once we can start to move forward once we know we've received those funds. I don't expect those won't be released until 2026, so that's why I put that on there. As such, we'll get some of that money. I don't want to say exactly that, but we went ahead and put the engineering funding in, so we'll be prepared if we receive special bridge funds for this particular project starting in 2026.
Are available in 2026?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
We've applied a couple times for those funds, and we haven't made the cut in the last couple of years. Is that correct?
That's correct. But as far as, I think we're getting closer and closer to the top of the line.
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm
Chair?
optimistic that we'll get it the next time.
Makes sense. Mayor?
Madam Clerk, could you please note for the record, it was 5:19 when Alderman Busker joined us?
So noted, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this portion before we move on? Alderperson Parker.
I've had some calls on that Hancock Street Bridge because of the condition of it, and we're putting it off for few years here. Is the weight limit on that bridge being reduced, or is it still gonna be able to hold the same amount?
Well, as far as I know, all the inspections have, come back with its original weight specification, so I'll have to check on that to be sure, but I don't think there's been any change to that.
One of the concerns came from somebody living in the arcade. There's several houses back there, and they were concerned about fire trucks. So that's what, because fire trucks, they don't believe can fit underneath the viaduct coming the other way, so they were concerned that if they needed it, they could get it. So if you could let me know, I'd
Sure.
let them know. Thank you.
I can check on that.
Please continue, Director.
Okay. Why don't we move on to the next section, which is buildings. It's fairly abbreviated. It encompasses, well, the first project is, we have a cemetery mausoleum that the city is responsible for. It was built in the early turn of the century, and the roof has decayed essentially to nothing. The whole thing needs to be rebuilt. So we are estimating the project cost at $15,000, and work is scheduled for next year, tentatively. Also, we budgeted for that in the streets department. So, I'm sorry, in the cemetery department. As for the next project is the loader building roof. We have a semi-Quonset hut building at the yards that is in need of repair. We're estimating the project to be $15,000, and we'd be funding that through operations. And the last item in this category I put in this, but it doesn't necessarily belong here, but it works out. Contract tree removal. We've identified approximately 45 dying, dead, or dangerous trees that don't fit into MFT funds, and that we need to budget for contract removal due to the fact that they're either too large or too complicated to do ourselves. The total estimated project cost there is $90,000. That'd be divided over 3 years, and so we'd be doing the removal 21 through 23. That would come from road bond fund. This concludes the building category. Are there any questions about that before we move on?
Chair?
Alderman Burberry, and then Bradshaw.
Director, just an observation. When we, as a city, or we contract out, take down these trees, is there any thought, any budget to putting in another tree? So that we maintain some level of forestation in the community?
So as far as I know at this point, our tree maintenance program has kind of fallen by the wayside with available funding and so forth. So not currently, to my knowledge. I'm not against that by any means, but currently, no, there's not a specific plan in place.
Okay.
We can always add that if need be.
Well, maybe there's a way to raise the funds.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's an excellent idea, Alderman Burberry. Director, you mentioned the road bond fund is to be used for this tree removal.
Yep.
Can you explain what type of fund this is? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar. It's just not clicking with me.
That might, Manager Bucus might speak with a little more authority on that.
Road bond fund, please.
Yes, 2 years ago, we borrowed $2.8 million for road improvements, and we still have some money left over. That's what we've been using to do our various projects. That's the money we're using to do Empire Street, and then we have a little bit left over, so we're using up the last of that bond money. So we call it the bond money.
Follow-up?
Go ahead.
Thank you. And Director, this road bond fund, is that within the parameters to use that for tree removal?
Well, it is to keep the streets safe, so we don't have damage to property and endangering public safety with dangerous trees. So because they're in the right-of-way, I see them as part of that would fall under the purview of that road bond fund.
That's very understandable because those large limbs do fall in the streets and do fall on cars. So thank you for that explanation.
You're very welcome. Okay, the next section is the water infrastructure project category. It's fairly lengthy. So the first project we're going to talk about is the water main phase 2 and well number 11. And this encompasses water main replacement on South Street, Sylvan Court, Kiwanis Drive, Meadows Drive, Cleveland Avenue, Monroe Drive, Santa Fe, and Jefferson. And it also includes the Berkshire production well number 11. The water main replacement program was bid in September. Fishers received the successful bid, and the well construction is underway by Cahoy. The project's the total cost of the project is approximately $4 million, and it is funded through an EPA loan. The next project is Water Structure Phase 1, which is the Berkshire Water Treatment Plant. This encompasses a new water treatment plant to be constructed at the Berkshire site. Work is scheduled for 2021. The estimated project cost is $12 million, and the current funding is through an EPA loan. The next project is a lead service line replacement phase 1. This encompasses lead services on Shawnee 13th, 14th, and 15th Streets. Work is currently to resume in March of 2021, and the total estimated cost of this project is $4 million. It is funded through an EPA loan, which is 100% forgivable. Water Structures Phase 3 includes, in well number 12, encompasses a new water treatment plant addition at the Willow Ground storage tank. Construction is tentatively scheduled for 2022. The cost, or the estimate of the project is $7 million, and is also funded through an EPA loan. Next project down is the Clinton Place and Street water and sewer reconstruction. This encompasses new water main and sanitary collection system on East Clinton Street and Clinton Place. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2021. It is estimated project cost of $620,000 and is funded through a community development block grant up to $550,000 with a local match of $70,000 from operations, water operations. Lead service line replacement phase 2 encompasses lead service line replacement. The areas that will be scheduled are still to be determined because the size of the project is scheduled to increase. It additionally is going to be $4 million and funded through an EPA loan, which is 100% forgivable. Moving down the list, we come to the hydrant painting project. This encompasses the painting of city fire hydrants. We've painted approximately 400 of a total of 1,200. And we're funding that through operations from the water fund. Moving to the next project, water main phase 5. This encompasses water main replacement on Stevenson. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2025. The estimated project cost is $3 million, and it will be funded through an EPA loan. Water main phase 6 encompasses water main replacement on Laurel, Park, Waddell, and Palmer. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2026, and is estimated project cost of $3 million, also funded through an EPA loan. Water structure phase 7 encompasses the Carroll Tank rehabilitation, well number 8 rehabilitation, and abandonment of Brick Street Water Treatment Plant. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2025. Estimated project cost of $3 million, again funded through EPA loan. Lead service line replacement phase 3 encompasses lead service line replacement to be determined. We'll be deciding which of those areas will receive the lead line replacement. The estimated project cost again is $4 million. Additionally, is funded through an EPA loan with 100% forgiveness. Distribution hydraulic model. This is the development of a distribution hydraulic model to help with future planning. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2023, but we could do it anytime sooner. And the estimated project cost is approximately $40,000 and is funded through operations. This concludes the water infrastructure projects category. Are there any questions regarding this?
Director, when did you say water main phase 6 is tentatively scheduled?
2026.
And could you explain a little bit more of the distribution hydraulic model? What is that?
It is a computer model that allows us to see the flow of water and calculate aging, also pressure differentials in different parts of the system, potential for compression wave problems, and also it brings in to an area we will be able to identify certain problems related to pressures.
Thank you. Alderperson Brashaw.
Thank you. Director, I was looking at all the phases for the lead service line replacement, and it comes up to over $12 million. Is there only for 3 phases, or are there more phases than what I'm seeing up here?
Alderman Bradshaw, this is, we're going to talk about this later tonight in the meeting. I have a memo I'm going to present. It's going to ask for the authorization of $12 million to reduce. We had originally, I think, 6 phases to the lead line replacement program. That's been changed and consolidated into 3, and each project is now $4 million instead of $2 million.
That makes much more sense now. I was just a little concerned with what I was hearing earlier. And may I continue?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And these are all EPA loans, and they are all 100% forgivable. Is that correct?
The lead line loans are.
The lead line replacement only?
Yes. Not only, but the lead line specifically are 100% forgivable. There may be loan forgiveness in some of the other loans,
Okay,
but we can't budget on that right now.
right. Thank you, sir.
And looking at how you project this budget, for instance, like the Clinton Place and Clinton Street, where the cost is $620,000, you're putting the whole cost in here. If we are successful on the grant, it's going to significantly reduce the cost of it, but you're showing us up front what it looks like if we don't get that type of funding.
Yes, if we don't get the grant, that will end up getting folded into the Adams Street project. So
Understood. Yeah.
Do we have a projected date of when we'll hear that grant, if we've received the grant?
Your Honor, I can't speak to that personally. I'd have to ask someone at Fairgram or Kirsten.
Alderman Borneman?
Thank you. You said that there are 1,200 fire hydrants in the city of Freeport?
Yes.
Okay. And it's right now budgeted for this year, next year and the year after is $80,000 budgeted to have them painted?
Yes.
Some have already been painted?
Yes, 400. Approximately.
It's about $100 per hydrant to paint?
It's between 100 and 200. The $200 ones are lead, or hydrants with lead paint. The ones without lead paint are cheaper.
Okay. And I'm assuming this is something that they're in need of repainting?
Yes.
Do you know when they were last painted?
I don't know offhand. It depends on when the hydrant was installed. So
Yeah. Some are pretty old. We did some of the hydrants last year, and we're starting this year's program right now. So if you're looking at the numbers and looking at the costs, it's because we spent almost $55,000 last year, and we're spending $55 this year, and then $55 next year, and then another $25. And there again, if it's lead painted fire hydrant, there's more. There's another process we have to go through to collect all that lead paint and the way we dispose it and everything. So it's a little more costlier than just going in and sandblasting and painting a hydrant that's just been used with normal paint. right? I shouldn't say normal paint, but with fire hydrant paint that doesn't have lead in it.
Would it be accurate to say that any of those lead hydrants are like pre-1978 at least
Oh,
for
yeah.
the painting?
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Alderperson Boris Busker.
Yes, I believe I can kind of speak to that. The last time any hydrants were painted would be 1997 or 98 because the Freeport Fire Explorer program at the time did it as a fundraiser for the city. The city council voted to fund their projects with, if they'd go out and paint the fire hydrants. So that was the last time that any of them were painted, so otherwise it would be probably 30 years before that.
Chair.
Alderperson Bradshaw.
Thank you, and I can attest that they have started painting them now, but a lot of them have a lot of rust showing, and the more they deteriorate, the harder it is to keep them up. Some of them that have the lead paint, they have changed the law now where they say that they must be stripped completely before they can be repainted. But once we have all those lead painted fire hydrants, the old ones stripped, from now on, it'll be a lesser fee to repaint them since we'll be removing all of that lead. That's all I had.
Chair. Alderman Rouse.
Okay, Director, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Clinton Place and Clinton Street, that was, do we not have the grant for that one?
I don't believe we've been awarded the grant yet, but it's a good candidate for the grant. So we expect that we will receive the grant.
Mr. Chairman?
Uh,
We applied for a community development block grant for the Clinton Place and Clinton Street, but it was originally in our Adams Street project. So if we don't get the community development block grant, we'll put it in with our loan for the Adams Street project, and so it'll be done with that project as well.
Okay.
We pulled it out deliberately because we thought we had a good chance of getting more money than if we would have gone with the EPA.
So I understand you want to put it all together, in other words.
Well, the Clinton Place and Clinton Street was part of the Adams Street project. But because of our belief that the community development block grant, which we wouldn't have to pay back anything, we thought we had a good chance of getting that funded through that program. So we pulled it out separately and bidded it separately rather than with the Adams Street project. With the Adams Street, there is some forgiveness. There is some loan monies from both Rebuild Illinois and so, but we're also looking at an EPA loan, which there is a partial forgiveness on that one, but I believe at 20% or $400,000. I don't remember which one it was, but it was in that ballpark. So that's why we pulled it out, because we could do more with state money than if we did it with a split with the state.
So with that being said, we're looking into doing it next year then?
Well, that's our plan right now, is to do it in 2021, but it all depends on how fast the funding comes.
Could you say that again?
It all depends how fast the funding comes.
Okay.
That's how fast we'll be working on it, but the plan is to do it in 2021.
Okay. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. Within the last couple of months, you brought that back and you said, hey, we're putting it out. Let's go apply for the grants. And it's a good way of stretching our dollars further. So thanks for the work on that.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like a better idea.
Well, if there's no other questions, we can move on to wastewater infrastructure. The first project here is the wastewater facilities phase 1. This encompasses construction of a new headworks at the wastewater treatment plant. Design is tentatively scheduled for early next year, and construction is tentatively scheduled for 2023. This project includes phosphorus reduction and optimization plans, so both of those will be folded into this same cost. The estimated total project cost is $16.2 million, and it is funded through EPA loans. The next project is a SCADA BAF control upgrade, or the biological aerated filter system. This encompasses new PLC controls. The estimated project cost is $45,000, and this is essentially the minimum funds to purchase the hardware that we should be able to program either in-house or with assistance, instead of paying a third party to come in and redo the whole thing. And this will be funded through wastewater operations. The next project is the Park Boulevard Force Main. This encompasses construction of a new wastewater force main from Park to Stevenson. Work is tentatively scheduled for 2025, and the estimated total project cost is $832,000. And it's funded through potentially through an IEPA loan or grant. Currently, there's no actual loan for this project yet. The next project is the Lynn Street Force Main. It encompasses construction of a new wastewater force main on Lynn Street. It is tentatively scheduled for 2025, and the estimated project cost is $950,000. It also is funded through an EPA loan / grant, not determined as of yet. The next project is Oak Hill Sanitary Collection System project. This encompasses the construction of a sanitary collection system to include Hillcrest, Lawn, Sylvan Court, Oak Hill, and Oakdale. The estimated project cost we've talked about in the past, it's $2.1 million. Although recent funding has become available or has come to our attention through the Unsewered Communities Grant with the IEPA. If that was not to work out, it could be funded or added to the Phase 1 facility plan. So we've talked about a couple of these options in the past. Moving on down, the sanitary collection lining projects. This is the lining of our collection system mains and interceptors. The amount of relining and where the location of the relining is going to occur is going to be based on our infiltration study that we've restarted here recently. So that's going to give us the insight on where we're best spent, our time and energy is best spent. In addition to the manhole rehab project is a similar situation. This would be funds available to rebuild manholes within the collection system that are identified by the infiltration study as a problem manhole. Estimated project cost here is $250,000, and we're funding that through water and wastewater operations. This concludes the wastewater project category. Are there any questions at this point on the wastewater? Okay, seeing none, the next section is stormwater infrastructure. We have four projects in this category. The first one is kind of important to put in place before the rest. The stormwater study project is similar to the water distribution model. It's a stormwater model that identifies the flow of water through the city during storm events. The estimated project cost of this is $140,000, and it's funded through operations, stormwater operations funds. The next project is the Benton and Jackson Stormwater Project. This encompasses the repair of a failing large wooden box culvert that flows to the Pecatonica River, and it drains a large portion of downtown. The estimated engineering costs are $500,000. It's unknown what the total project estimate is, and if we move forward on it, we would seek Illinois EPA stormwater loans or grants to perform the construction. Additionally, I'm calling it the Linden Street Stormwater Project. It is a similar situation behind McNess. It is another failing wooden box culvert that drains to the Pecatonica and drains that part of the downtown. We're putting in $500,000 for engineering, but the total cost of the project is unknown, and we would fund it through EPA stormwater, either grants or loans. And the last stormwater project here is the Homer Stormwater District project. It is a failing stone arch that's been worked on in the past, 20 plus years ago. The estimated project cost is around $2.5 million. At least that's what my predecessor had. And if we move forward on that, it'd be funded through additionally, it could be the same EPA stormwater grant loan program or its own separate one. So this includes the stormwater projects category. Are there any questions regarding that?
Chair.
Alderperson Bradshaw.
Thank you. Director, can you explain the Homer Drainage District project? Where is that located?
Let's see.
One of the last item. Storm.
Oh, could you go click the next slide? Oh, is it down at the bottom?
Yes. the very bottom, storm, it says Homer
Okay.
Drainage District.
Yeah, yeah, there it is, yeah. What would you like me to?
Can you tell me the location of that and what that's
Well,
about?
it incorporates from Reed Park all the way to the Benton and Jackson box culvert. So we have a stormwater collection area on Benton and Jackson. When you go out toward the river, that's the box culvert. But before you get to that detention area, that's like a mixture of stone arch and box culvert. The city in the past had purchased houses and property to go from Reed Park all the way there, but as I understand it, we're not complete, and they stopped it where they ran out of funds. So it's something we need to keep an eye on. The stone arch is apparently not in good shape, and so we need to be looking into the future for funds that are available to finish that project.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Ross.
Director, can you explain to me, what does HLSO
Okay, yeah.
and O mean?
That's just an abbreviation for Hillcrest Lawn, Sylvan Court, Oak Hill, and Oakdale.
Okay, and that is,
That is-
what's gonna be done?
That is the collection system expansion that we talked about a couple meetings ago, where it was gonna be about $2.1 million to install sewer collection in that area. And there was only, I don't remember exactly, 47 services, and it was kind of expensive. Those places were out in the county at one point.
Right.
And they're all on septic, and so one of the things that we're trying to decide to do is expand sewer services to these folks that are over there.
And when would that begin?
Well, as soon as we are able to secure unsewered, unsewered community grant funds from the EPA, or decide to move forward with some type of by folding those funds into the first phase facility plan for the wastewater plant.
Okay.
Alderman Borneman.
Thank you. Director, do any of these projects include the ongoing issues with the Freeport Golf Course, Golf Club?
No. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, I'll move on to the vehicles and equipment category. Hopefully we can go a little quicker. So the first item we've got here is a 14-foot paver. The approximate cost is around $200,000. This piece of equipment, if equipped the way we have it, we've designed its equipment, would allow us to put down at least between 500 and 800,000 square feet a year of pavement. So this would be a helpful addition to the city. It would allow us to get a lot more done in a quicker period of time. Moving down, the next piece of equipment is a tool cat. This is a flexible piece of gear that would enable us to more quickly and easily and efficiently clear the bike path during snow events. It would also help us with construction projects, as it has a broom attachment. It also can, the attachments that are used for it can also be used on our Bobcat equipment. So the various tools would interchange with our existing equipment. So let's see here. I have some more information on that one. And it would also give us some flexibility and so forth and backup capability. So equipped with a clamshell that would help us with brush removal or other types of like sidewalk and a curb removal. So that's why we're looking at a tool cat. The next piece of equipment is a towable air compressor. This is an important wastewater treatment maintenance request. The current one we have is very old, and it is not reliable enough to count on when we need one. So we're looking at replacing that towable air compressor. Additionally, we need a large towable pump for the wastewater treatment maintenance group. Again, we need something that we can use to de-water manholes and move large volumes of water. This year, I got an introduction to the city's paint machine that we use for striping the roads. It is 20 years old, although the one we have is functional. It'd be nice to be looking forward to replacing that paint machine with something a little more, let's say, newer. We're also requesting 2 new mowers for the wastewater treatment plant maintenance, and the Pelican sweepers on here. Essentially, we have one sweeper that is no longer functioning. So we have a newer one we've been using. The older one is no longer functional. So we'd like to get a used Pelican sweeper. And that concludes my presentation. Do I have any questions on the vehicles and equipment portion?
Alderman Waterman.
Thank you. The mowers for city properties, I guess I'm just wondering, and I'm sure this has been thought about, and I'm sorry if this isn't the time to bring it up, contracting it out versus owning our own equipment. Is there a pro to contracting this out?
The pro is that your costs are fixed. You know what it's going to cost you long term. But again, as I've found with repaving, anything the city does in-house, we end up paying. We can usually do it more effectively and efficiently than we can do to have contract out different organizations. So my opinion is to keep the plant maintenance in-house, because they're also operating around our facilities, and if they were, something was to get damaged, that would cause issues for us. I've coming from my background, I've seen contract mowers crash into all kinds of infrastructure, water-related infrastructure, and some of the guys they hire are not always the best. So I think it's best if we keep our grounds maintenance in-house.
Okay, I have some follow-ups. Do you have something to add, Randy?
Well, the only thing I want to say, Alderman, is that these are properties that we mow every day. I mean, not every day, every week. So it's not like we're contracting out to do a vacant lot once every couple of weeks or 3 weeks. So this would be, to me, it'd be a very costly alternative, because we are out there every week, and we do own a lot of property.
Go ahead and follow.
The staff that mows those properties, like the wastewater, are those water and sewer staff, or is it a separate
Yes,
department?
that's wastewater treatment maintenance.
Great.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
Go, continues.
Thank you. The street sweeper, so right now we currently only have one that's operable,
Yes, sir.
and that obviously are we unable to meet our needs with just one?
I think short term it's going to get us by, but we number one, don't have a backup if that one was to go down into in the spring when things get busier. We're going to definitely need two.
So a municipality this size can't operate on one effectively over time?
Correct.
And I said cannot, just to be clear.
It depends on the level of services you would like to deliver.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Manager Beekes.
We try, I'm going to say try because we don't always do it, but we try to do the downtown at least once a week, if not twice a week. And only having one street sweeper, we can't keep that program going. So we need a minimum of 2 sweepers just to make sure that our neighborhoods, our major roads in the downtown are kept up. And if we only have 1 sweeper, then we're going to have to decide what our priorities are and how often we're going to get into the neighborhoods.
Okay, and then I wanted to jump back to something you covered earlier, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm just looking at, so the Chicago Avenue project, we're devoting $750,000, almost $2 million, and then $1.5 million over the next 3 years. But we're devoting $175 to just our streets in general for the next 3 years. I'm assuming the Chicago project, that's a lot of grants that are supporting that.
Yes, we're getting a couple of grants for Chicago Street. Plus, it's not only road improvements, but we're putting in all new water lines. The water lines in there date back to the 1880s. Sewer, we're putting in some new lighting. We're burying the electric lines that are, and other wires that are above ground, underground. And we're putting in a bike lane and new sidewalks as well. And then there's some vaults that we have to fill in on the street as well. So it's more than just a street resurfacing project. It's a whole completely rebuilt of the street and the infrastructure underneath it.
And I'm sorry, because you've gone over this at length with us on separate meetings. The percentage of matching funds from the city versus grants, ballpark?
So I've got 1.9 million in Opportunity Zone grant, 1 million in House Bill 64, Senator Stewart's money, and then 1.25 in MFT. And that's what I've got for funding.
If I understand that right, then a large portion of this is covered by grant funding that we wouldn't be able to use just to put towards streets.
Correct. And I think the project is somewhat tentative, or the scope of the project will be determined if we don't get the Illinois House Bill 64 money.
Okay.
So,
Well, I just wanted to touch on that because I am a big fan of the project on Chicago Avenue, but when you look at it on paper, you're almost thinking that where are our priorities, because we have streets that are in such poor condition that are driven by all the citizens every day versus Chicago, which is a less used street. But then when you look into the fact that a lot of this is provided by grant funding and we're taking advantage of that, it'd be irresponsible. Well, I don't want to use irresponsible, but there's a reason we're devoting so much funding here.
right. I mean, you have 3 million of it that's covered by outside funds. You know, you're using $1.2 million of MFT, but MFT doesn't guarantee that you can use it wherever you want in the city. It has certain strict guidelines that you have to abide by. So there are certain cases that, well, anyway, that's all I have to say about it.
Well, I appreciate we're taking advantage of the opportunities that are being provided out for outside sources, and I'm looking forward to that Chicago Avenue project being completed, and I think it will be a good look for downtown. And I just think we should make it clear when your public's looking at this that I don't need to repeat myself. Everything that we just covered, there's a reason we're making this decision.
When you take it in totality, there's going to be a tremendous amount of work going on. So you've got Adam Street that's going to feed into the downtown. A few blocks away, you're going to have Chicago going on, you know, in other areas. I mean, the downtown 88 project. I mean, there's going to be a lot of activity going on. So, Mr. Chair.
A lot of activity under a lot of comprehensive projects, like I said, water, sewer, utilities buried, and then the road, a lot of it below the surface on that too. We're running really out of time. One more question from Alderman Busker.
I've actually got two on the vehicles, real quick here. With the paver that you're looking at there, has there been any discussion with the county highway as an intergovernmental agreement to use their paver for some of these projects instead of duplicating equipment throughout the community?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not aware of any paver that the county has.
They have a full street paver.
So no, we haven't had any ongoing conversation with them about that.
Okay.
They have been helping us with some of the primer, spring primer and so forth, but we haven't gone any further than that.
Okay, and then the other one was back to the street sweepers. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, are we leasing the new one? Or did we buy that?
We're making lease payments, but at the end, it's our vehicle.
Okay, and with that, you know, if I remember right, when we bought that, part of the agreement was if it broke down, they would send out a new one until that one was repaired, and then we'd get that back. What's the cost at doing a second one the same way as that, instead of trying to find something used and worrying about someone else's problems?
Those are good points. They deserve some more looking into.
Thank you.
Just one final comment, going back to the paver and the amount of street maintenance. If going down the road, you talked about some of the parameters. You said you don't have staff for a certain dollar figure, but with the paver, you'd be able to do more and things of that nature. If you could get back to us formally or informally, where is that break line between the 100 current staffing, the new paver, and then between the 175 and the 500,000, where's the breaking point with current staff? What are the costs for if you were to bump it up, not just cost, but if you're talking cost of staff, you know, what is that approximately for legacy costs, things of that nature, just to give some ballparks for weighing the pros and cons of that going forward. But we're at 5:59. Manager Bucus, I'm thinking of continuing the rest of the portions then until our next Finance Committee of the Whole meeting.
Yes, that would be first meeting, the first Monday in November. We're looking at meeting at least 4 of the 5 Mondays in November and tying everything up by the fourth Monday and having possible first reading on the budget.
Okay, and handling levy as well then?
Yes.
Sue, all right. Thank you all. I guess then we'll go to item number 8, public comments. Any public comments on the Finance Committee of the Whole? Seeing no staff jumping up and down or directors jumping up and down. Next item is number 9, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, moved by Alderperson Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross. Any comment? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Meeting adjourned. What do you need, about 3 minutes before we transition to the next, or can you go straight into the next one? What do you need, Kurt?
Kurt needs it.
Okay, all right. Let's reconvene for the next meeting in 3 minutes.